Back at again with another YouTube video. It's your boy Uriah G, and today we're gonna react to 10 WWE wrestlers who were extremely difficult to work with. Let's get right into the video.
Why, Elizabeth? Because you can't beat me. You're wrong. No, you can't. Man, don't touch me. You can't beat me.
10 WWE wrestlers who were extremely difficult to work with. Number 10, The Cat. The Cat had various roles during the WWE Attitude Era, and a final role in the company saw her enter into a feud with Right to Censor. Unfortunately for Cat and her fans, the angle was abruptly dropped when she was fired from the company. It was reported that The Cat was extremely difficult to work with backstage, and the creative team had done nothing but complain about how much of a nightmare she really was. Now, the Cat wasn't exactly a main eventer, and she was in no position to be making life difficult for anyone. The Cat's firing led to her real-life husband Jerry the King Lawler walking out of the WWE for what he claims was an unjust firing. However, with the WWE never bringing the Cat into the mix in any capacity, it certainly gives merit to the claims of her backstage problems. Number 9, Stone Cold Steve Austin.
I know who the Cat is. Who is that?
Being the top guy in wrestling allows a certain amount of power and sway, and for Stone Cold Steve Austin, he was prone to questioning every booking call and questioning every creative choice that was being made about his character. Whilst this may just sound like a wrestler who just cares about their body of work, Austin eventually became hard to deal with backstage, and even his close friend Jim Ross believes so. JR discussed Austin's attitude backstage during an episode of Grillin' JR.
I learned a long time ago, you keep your top guys happy, and that was very important in my role. And who was the bigger top guy than Stone Cold? And so I did go out of my way to. And Steve was not an easy manage. He was challenging because even to me, you know, he had questioned the booking at times and so forth.
He also went on to share a story of Austin not wanting to work with Mark Mero.
I remember once.
I feel like a lot of wrestlers back then, like a lot of them back then, they spoke up about the wrongs and what they wanted better for the company and what should have happened. You know what I mean? There's still wrestlers in today's day that, you know, complain, speak up about how they're getting treated and what they didn't like about the booking and what happened on the show.
He had the same issue with Mark Mero. He didn't want to work with Mark Mero. He didn't think Mark Mero was up to speed, and Steve wasn't ready in that time of his career to make guys in that respect. He wanted them made before he got them, so they could go out and have a good match and tell a good story.
There were countless incidents of Austin acting in this manner, and the year 2002 was an infamous year for him, as it saw him butt heads with WWE creative on more than one occasion. Number 8, Buff Bagwell. When a wrestler debuts in a new promotion, it's vital that they make a great first impression. When it came to Buff Bagwell, who joined WWE following the WCW buyout of 2001, he did everything imaginable wrong. Bagwell came into the company with a massive attitude problem, and his behavior made everyone from the WWE staff members to the actual talent completely resent him. Bagwell was late to shows without showing any remorse, and he was even faking injuries, a major no-no in the world of wrestling. In the space of a few short months, Bagwell had alienated himself from the entire locker room. Thanks
Recording. What is it?
to his own malicious actions, and it was hardly a surprise that WWE cut ties with him indefinitely.
If you ever want to know why.
Here you go with these ads.
After 2 matches in the company. Number 7,
Well, whoever that wrestler was, I don't know him. Like, I don't know that wrestler really. I think I've seen him because I know that hat. And I'm guessing he wasn't even booked well anyway. He probably wasn't even, like, he didn't win any titles. Has he won any titles?
The Miz. The Miz deserves a ton of credit for always being 100% authentic.
I feel like The Miz had a good career. I feel like he could retire if he wanted to. He won WWE champion 2 times. IC title like 6 to 8 times, I think, or more than that. He's won the US title, tag team title. He had a good career. Miz had a good career, but let's see why he's difficult to work with.
He first arrived in WWE, his bold and brash personality caught the locker room off guard, and this instantly led to problems. The Miz stood out when compared to the rest of the wrestlers, and his personality was interpreted as being cocky, and due to the Miz being a complete rookie, wrestlers and WWE staff members questioned what the Miz had to be cocky about. The Miz was pretty much hated by all the top guys in the company, and he was even at one stage kicked out of the locker room. The Miz worked endlessly though to change this perception around. He showed the world that he genuinely cared about pro wrestling and that he was going to be easy to work with in all areas. Additionally, over time, it became apparent that the Miz's personality that so many had issues with was his genuine personality. That's who he was, and that's who he is still to this very day. Ultimately, The Miz went from the most hated man backstage to one of the most favored. The Miz in today's WWE locker room is one of the most celebrated and beloved names around, and it's hard to find a single wrestler that has a negative word to
Like I said, I feel like he had a good career. If he wanted to retire, he could, because he actually had a good, decent career. He won plenty of titles.
say about him, and for good reason. Number 6. Sable. Wrestlers having an issue with dropping their respective title isn't anything new. However, when asked to drop the title to a name that helped make you relevant, then it's definitely an issue. Sable was one of the hottest stars in pro wrestling in the late 90s, and she was easily the most popular name in the women's division. The problem was that Sable couldn't wrestle, as she could barely take any bumps, and every single match that she was involved in was met with overwhelmingly negative reviews. The only reason that Sable was even able to step foot in the ring was due to the iconic Luna Vachon, who had a hand in training her. But Sable was detested backstage by the locker room. She was hard to deal with, and the WWE creative team would have a tough task working with her, and she would even refuse to drop the title to Vachon in 1999. This resentment mainly came from the superiority complex that Sable had, and this was a complex that wasn't remotely justified. This would anger wrestlers and writers backstage in today's wrestling, so it's easy to imagine just how hostile everyone's behavior was towards her during the wild days of the Attitude Era. Number 5. The Ultimate Warrior.
Ultimate Warrior, rest in peace.
During his various WWE runs, the Ultimate Warrior acquired a rotten reputation backstage, and this reputation stated that he was selfish, hard to deal with, and some would say an egomaniac. Warrior liked to operate by his own rules, and he rarely connected with wrestlers or key.
They also said that Ultimate Warrior wasn't really a good in-ring wrestler, so I don't know.
Members of the creative team, and this often resulted in significant problems backstage. There are endless stories of Warrior's behavior backstage being shared publicly, but one rare story is from 1996. Warrior returned at WrestleMania 12 to take on Triple H, who was using his Hunter Hearst Helmsley persona at the time. The idea behind the match was a competitive match that would showcase both men. However, on the day of the show, Warrior cancelled the idea and decided that he wanted to squash the future head of creative. WWE executive Bruce Pritchard would share this story on his podcast.
It was never meant to be the short match that it became. Warrior changed it that day. I think Jerry Briscoe was the agent, and Warrior was like, no, this is the match we're going to do, and went back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and at that point, it's get the match in the ring, and Hunter was a pro and was like, let's just go do what we got to do and move on. We'll deal with all the other shit afterwards.
The WWE had so many names willing to talk negatively about their experiences with Warrior backstage that in 2005, they released a hit-piece documentary focused on his bad behavior. The Self-Destruction of the Ultimate Warrior was the title of the documentary. However, due to the WWE and Warrior making amends in his final years, the documentary is very hard to find. Number 4. Triple H. Triple H is currently the head of WWE Creative, yet during his time as a full-time wrestler, he made a lot of enemies backstage. Triple H didn't conduct himself in the best manner, and he was often prone to using his power to manipulate WWE Creative into his set vision. This became hard for those backstage as Triple H started to be seen as a selfish man who was only trying to make himself look good. During the 2000s, it's believed that Triple H impacted the pushes of both Rob Van Dam and Jeff Hardy. This type of behavior would have naturally made the WWE Creative Department's job difficult, as they couldn't exactly argue with the chairman's son-in-law.
He's the one, and it's crazy now. Because, you know, Vince isn't in office. Now Triple H is the one booking everything. He's the one in control of the company. So, them not approving Triple H and him back then, saying he's difficult to work with.
Thankfully, the game managed to break away from this kind of behavior in his later years, and the Triple H that currently leads WWE couldn't be more different. Number 3, Enzo Amore. Now, it took a matter of months from Enzo Amore's main roster debut for reports to surface relating to his behavior. The main roster crew hadn't exactly become members of the Amore fan club since they began to work with him, and his behavior was rubbing everyone backstage the wrong way. It got so severe that in 2017, Roman Reigns had to legitimately kick Amore off the tour bus. This type of thing never happens in modern wrestling, so it spoke volumes in relation to how Amore was acting backstage. It was even claimed that Neville refused to lose to Amore on Raw, and this led to Neville walking out of the company and for him to never return. Simply put, Amore's antics and behavior towards people backstage.
So Neville didn't want to lose to Enzo. He must have thought Enzo was beneath him. Like, he probably felt like Enzo wasn't even a good wrestler. He probably felt like he was a jobber or a mid-card wrestler. So that Neville was like, I'm better than you. He's not competition. So them saying that he had to drop the title or lose, you know, that I guess that's what made Neville leave the company. That's crazy.
Made him impossible to work with. Number 2, Randy Orton. Now, in recent years, Randy Orton has emerged as a locker room leader and someone that the modern day wrestlers can look up to. But that wasn't always the case, as it wouldn't be hyperbolic to say that Orton used to be a living...
Oh, we're not going to talk about Enzo, because we know why Enzo had to leave the company, but we're not going to talk about him.
Nightmare in the locker room. Orton had vast anger issues and he was said to be awful to deal with both from a management and talent perspective. Orton would often use his standing in the company to damage people's careers. Orton would be heavily involved in the WWE release of Mr. Kennedy, and who can ever forget when Orton managed to get Kofi Kingston's major WWE push cancelled in 2010. Unlike a lot of names who weren't exactly beacons of light in the backstage area, Orton admitted that he made mistakes in the past, and his personal development over the past decade needs to be acknowledged. And number 1, Shawn Michaels. It's been public knowledge for years that Shawn Michaels was public enemy number 1 backstage in the 90s. Outside of HBK's close friends, he was loathed by other talent and anyone who worked backstage. HBK walked into the backstage area every week with an attitude, and he didn't care who he had to step on to stay on top. An example of how HBK
I didn't know he had a own attitude every week backstage. Wow.
During the 90s can be seen with the verified story of One Night Only. The initial plan was to see Bulldog defeat HBK in the UK, but HBK managed to gaslight and manipulate Vince McMahon into changing the finish. Also, all you need to see is that Sunny interview, and you knew that HBK had some power backstage. Now, HBK didn't even need to win the match, and there was no benefit from him winning. He simply just didn't want to put over another talent. And in 1998, when HBK was set to retire, WWE planned for him to lose the
I just don't get why wrestlers do that. They complain about the script. If you have to put him over and lose, then just go with the script. But I understand. It's a lot of history behind wrestling and a lot of things about wrestling that a lot of people don't know about. Like, I know a lot about wrestling, but I still learn new things. Cause we're learning about the insiders. We're learning about the real conversation and meaning and what happened with these wrestlers and what they say and how they feel. So that's what they say. But besides that, let's just finish the video.
WWE title to Stone Cold Steve Austin in the main event of WrestleMania. Due to HBK's abysmal reputation backstage, there was legitimate and justified concern that HBK wasn't going to refuse to lose. Thankfully, he went through with the planned finish, but he didn't exactly look happy.
I didn't think Shawn Michaels was going to lose to... I didn't think Shawn Michaels was going to beat Stone Cold. I think I messed up what I was going to say, but now I know. Yeah, pretty much what I was saying, yeah. Because I just don't think Shawn Michaels can beat Stone Cold. Maybe with help he could, but Stone Cold, of course. I'm guessing he said that Shawn Michaels wanted to beat Stone Cold at WrestleMania. At WrestleMania, what is it, 13? The main event with Mike Tyson as the referee. Y'all tell me in the comments, is that what happened? He wanted to not lose to Stone Cold?
Doing the honors. However, when he returned in 2002, the old habits had magically disappeared, and 2002 HBK was a stark contrast to the HBK of the 90s. But there you have it, folks.
Alright, that was 10 WWE wrestlers who are extremely difficult to work with. You guys tell me what you guys want to see next in the comments down below. I got more videos coming. Stay tuned. Subscribe, like, comment, and yeah, Uriah out.